They run for hours, not minutes. Hours through blisters, cramps, exhaustion, rain, heat waves, and sometimes even through heartbreak. But when the finish line comes into view, the camera's only catch, the cheers, they don't show the pain. Welcome to the life of a marathon runner where the glory is brief, but the suffering is endless. If you think this is just about putting one foot in front of the other, you've never met someone training for 26 miles of mental war. Because here's the truth, it sucks to be a marathon runner, and not for the reasons you think. You see the highlight reels, the Olympic glory, the medal ceremonies, the triumphant finishes. But behind every photo finish is a lonely, brutal story. You don't wake up one day and decide to run a marathon. No. You break, then rebuild, over and over again. Ask any serious runner, and they'll tell you marathon training isn't just about endurance. It's about sacrifice. Social life, gone. Family events, missed. Dating. Try explaining to someone that you have to sleep by 8 p.m. because your long run starts at 5 a.m. On a Sunday, you train when your legs scream at you to stop. You keep going when your toenails fall off. You hydrate like it's a job. You carb load like it's a science. And even then your body might betray you on race day. One wrong sip, one misstep, and months of training are lost to a cramp, a fall, or just bad luck. It's a high-stakes gamble run 100 miles a week, just for a few hours on the road that could end in heartbreak. And let's not even get started on injuries, shin splints, IT band syndrome, stress fractures, plantar fasciitis. The list goes on. A single twinge in your knee can cost you the entire season, and you don't get a trophy for rehab. But maybe the hardest part isn't physical, it's mental. The solitude, the silence, the obsessive thoughts. Every mile is a dialogue with your demons. Every hill is a test of will. And in 2025, it's worse than ever, because now everyone's watching. Social media has changed the game. Every training update is a potential reel. Every finish line becomes a post. Runners chase likes the way they used to chase personal bests. Strava segments, Garmin stats, VO2 max screenshotted and posted for clout. It's not enough to run fast. Now you have to look good doing it. Smile through the pain. Record the struggle. Make a content. And if you don't, someone else will. Mental health in athletes is finally being talked about, but marathoners still get left out. They're seen as machines, disciplined gods, suffering junkies. But inside, they're often hurting more than anyone else. The pressure to perform isn't just from fans or brands, it's internal, deep. You train so hard, and for what? A finisher's medal, a personal record no one else will care about. Sometimes, it feels like the pain is the only thing that's real, and yet they keep running. Because there's something addictive about the suffering, something pure. Marathoners chase that razor's edge, the line between control and collapse, between triumph and breakdown. Ask them why they do it, and they'll hesitate. Then they'll say something like, to prove I can, or because I need to. Because for many of them, running is therapy. It's control in a world full of chaos. It's structure. It's identity. But that identity can become a prison. When running becomes who you are, not just what you do, what happens when you can't run. That's the part nobody wants to talk about. The burnout is real, and it's everywhere. Training apps now use AI to monitor fatigue. Wearables track sleep, stress, and heart rate variability. Some athletes even wear glucose monitors 24/7. It's data overload, and it's making people crack. What used to be instinctual is now digital. Recovery has become just another metric. Rest days feel like failure. In 2025, there's a new kind of runner, the overtrained, under-recovered, performance-obsessed athlete drowning in tech. And the irony, the more we optimize, the worse we feel. Marathoners used to be rebels running against the grain. Now they're caught in the same performance hamster wheel as everyone else. And the injuries, they're showing up younger and more intense. High school kids tearing hamstrings from speed workouts meant for Olympians. Recreational runners logging 80-mile weeks just to keep up with Instagram. It's madness. There's a dark side to passion, and marathon runners know it well. They don't talk about it much. They just lace up and go. Because complaining isn't part of the culture. Pain is a badge. Fatigue is normal. Breaking down is just part of the process, but maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe we need to redefine what success looks like. Not every run has to be a grind. Not every race has to be a PR. Not every athlete has to live on the edge of burnout. Because when you strip away the noise, the gear, the apps, the posts, the sponsorships, what's left? A human being running. And maybe that's enough. And then, the finish line comes into view, just a blurry ribbon across a sea of noise, sweat, and pain. You'd think this is the moment it all pays off. But for a lot of marathon runners, it's not the victory it looks like on TV. It's survival. It's finally letting your body collapse after willingly punishing it for 26 miles. And when the crowd roars, you can barely hear them. You're too dizzy, too broken, too empty. What people don't see is what happens after the race. The aching joints, the night sweats, the dehydration, the hallucinations some runners endure midway through. And if you're not an elite athlete with sponsors and recovery staff, you're alone. You're your own medic, your own therapist, your own nutritionist, just you and the pain you chose. Then there's the psychological fallout. People say marathoners are mentally tough, and they are. But what happens when you build your entire identity around a finish time? When you obsess over your splits more than your sleep? When you tie your self-worth to your ranking on Strava? That's how burnout creeps in, not just in your muscles, but in your mind. You stop running for joy. You start running to silence that gnawing guilt. If you're not logging 60 miles a week, you feel like a fraud. If you skip a day, your anxiety kicks in like clockwork. You keep telling people running helps your mental health, but inside, you're falling apart. And it gets worse with social media. Every run is content. Every finish line has to be filmed. You need a perfect GoPro shot for your post. You need to hit APR so you can show growth. If you don't post it, it didn't happen. Now, you're not just competing with yourself, you're competing with algorithms. And let's talk about bodies for a second. Marathon running is romanticized, lean, gritty, inspiring. But the truth is, it can destroy your body. Stress fractures, cartilage loss, hormonal imbalance. In women, it's common to lose menstrual cycles for months at a time. That's not strength. That's a body screaming for help. But nobody posts that part. They post the medals, the smiles, the gear haul, the victory dance at the finish. Nobody posts the blisters so deep you can't walk the next day, the toenails you lose, the stomach cramps that make you cry at mile 18, or the fear that one day your knees just won't come back. And then there's the financial cost. Entry fees. Travel, shoes that cost more than rent in some places, energy gels, supplements, recovery tools. Some marathoners spend thousands a year. And for what? For a shot at a Boston qualifier? For a medal that says you survived? There's beauty in it, yes, but there's also a quiet desperation. And here's a brutal truth nobody tells you: nobody really cares about your marathon. Unless you're Eliud Kipchoge or breaking some world record, people forget your name the second you cross the finish line. You post your race recap, you get a few likes, then the world moves on. But you limp for days. You analyze every second. You question if it was worth it. And still, you sign up again. Why? Because despite all this, marathon runners are wired differently. They chase pain like it's a drug. They seek out limits just to break them. They suffer, not because they have to, but because they choose to. And maybe that's the paradox. Maybe it sucks to be a marathon runner because it's so hard. Because it demands more from you than anything else in life. Because it chews you up and spits you out and still dares you to come back. But maybe that's also what makes it beautiful. Because every step says something powerful. It says, I'm still here. It says, I don't quit. It says, I know pain and I run toward it. To the outside world, you're just another runner in a sea of bibs and sweat. But to yourself, you are proof of resilience, a living, breathing, aching rebellion against comfort. And even if the world doesn't notice your finish, you will. So to every marathon runner who's ever asked themselves, why the hell am I doing this? The answer is simple: because you can. Now smash that like button if you've ever pushed through a finish line that no one else could see. Drop the name of the most underrated athlete you know in the comments. We want to give them their flowers. And don't forget to subscribe tomorrow. We're dropping a story even tougher than this one. You won't want to miss it.